So I just wanted to talk about my worst nightmare, which is actually swimming pools. Now, the reason swimming pools are my worst nightmare is because of what I have to walk on. If you watched my previous video, Disability is Not Inability, you would have found out that because my right ankle is fixed and my foot is really arthritic and incredibly stiff, the whole thing's stiff, I can't move my toes or sort of really any part of my foot at all, and I'm still sort of walking on the right hand side of it, that for me to walk on any sort of concrete is really quite an effort and not very comfortable at all. In fact, it's quite painful. Now, there's lots of different types of concrete. Just your plain old flat concrete with no stones in it, you know, is probably the best kind of concrete for me. The absolute worst is usually found around swimming pools, and I just hate taking my shoes off to walk those few yards into the pool because it can cause me a great deal of distress. Not only because, you know, I'm sort of very self-conscious about, you know, suddenly, you know, I look as though I'm okay walking to the pool and then I take my shoes off and have to walk into the pool, and, you know, people start looking at me like, you know, there's something seriously wrong, and, you know, is this guy injured? Do I need to call an ambulance? You know, so yeah, then again, as I mentioned before in the other video, with things like, you know, Buddhist temples where you have to take your shoes off, I don't avoid it because swimming is about the only exercise I can actually sort of really do and put a lot of effort into it without causing too much pain. If I do say 20 laps of the 50-metre pool, the only thing I really notice is I do get quite severe cramp in the leg and in the foot. So I don't avoid it because it's about the only thing I can do to sort of really sort of stay fit and actually control my weight as well, because that's something else that goes up and down with my condition. So the other thing that is really hard for me to squat. You'll see that when I squat, my left leg sort of has a fairly normal action, but my right leg, as soon as I start to squat, because it's just completely stiff, it's forced to raise up by the toes. So obviously that's, you know, a little bit uncomfortable. This is Cairns Lagoon, which is actually a really good design because it's got sand that goes into the water from the grass that you can just walk straight into the lagoon. So this sort of design you can't really have in sort of swimming pool areas though, but it's a great sort of design for someone like me anyway. So this is typical of sort of older style swimming pools. It's probably built in the 1960s or 70s. So the whole surroundings of this pool are sort of that, you know, concrete type of agglomerate sort of pathways. So I do actually have a solution to this problem, so I'll get onto that a little bit later. So this is a brand new pool area in Cairns that's cost about $10–15 million. It's quite an extensive facility, sort of an Olympic class 50-metre pool with multiple lanes. There's also a smaller pool over here, and there's also a warm pool at the back as well, a heated swimming pool. Now this as well is surrounded by concrete. Now there's no sort of soft access, as it were. There's no sort of soft matting or the type of spongy surface that you actually see, say in some children's playgrounds. There's some very hard-wearing material that's also really soft to walk on, which I think for people like me, people with fixed ankles, people with foot deformities, people with sensitive feet, there's a whole class of people that will probably benefit from having some sort of soft surface. An area where for example, these stands, they could walk from these stands. It doesn't have to be a lot. It just needs to be, a short pathway, for example, to actually get to the pool. Now, on this pool, as with all pools, there is a ramp, a disabled access ramp. And there's lots of handrails and things like that as well. There are grassy areas at the far side in this pool. But having swum at this pool myself quite a few times as well, there is still that sort of difficulty of sort of finding the right spot. So I don't actually have to walk too far, but it's inevitable with this sort of pool that because there's no soft walking access area, that I do experience quite a bit of discomfort. So I think in summary, sort of people like myself with my type of foot deformities and sensitivities in the feet could very much benefit in sort of these swimming pool areas from certainly some sort of soft access, as I like to call it. The other areas I've had extreme problems with have been sort of water parks, the large-scale water parks. So having young children, it's something that when you do go on holiday, you sort of want to partake in it, and you want to go to these places. A lot of the trouble for me has been walking around, basically a lot at these places, and just getting extreme discomfort in the foot area. So one thing I have found at these larger scale water parks as well is that I take my sandals with me with orthotics, but what I find is if I've got to go on a longer slide or something like that, I have to leave my sandals down at the bottom of the slide, and then I have to walk all the way up, and it's usually a concrete slope, to the top of the slide with the kids, something like that. So me walking in my bare feet up a slope because my right ankle's fixed, and so I can't move it, it's a really painful exercise. And when you spend a whole day doing it with your kids, you're just absolutely knackered at the end of it. So I mean, these are sort of issues that I deal with my specific disability. I don't think the type of disability that I've got is uncommon. I think there's probably sort of things that water parks and swimming pools that could do that are already built, for example, that probably wouldn't be excessively expensive for them to sort of alter. Maybe there is some sort of soft strip matting they could put down for access to these areas for people like myself. In construction of new facilities, maybe they could install these sort of soft access walkways. So there's a few options there that would basically mitigate issues for people like myself, with people with my sort of disability. So anyway, that's my take on it, but I just thought this would be a good video to make, to also to educate again in sort of sort of the areas, certain areas that are a problem for me in my daily life, and I'm sure they're a problem for lots of other people as well, who don't have my specific condition, but probably have related conditions where these sort of modifications that could be made to these sort of public facilities you know, would greatly aid, you know, these people's experience, basically. So anyway, thanks for watching.